Hi, I'm Danny.
And I'm Si. Welcome to Business in the Brew, a podcast dedicated to all things business with the occasional cuppa.
We take a business story, theory, or something we just want to chat about and give it a dusting of our own special personality and sense of humour, combined with our experience and knowledge. We're both business graduates and have run our own businesses for many years. We can't wait for you to listen.
Thanks, Dawn. We're on air.
Hiya.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Hold on to your
I'm glad we haven't eaten
stable
yet.
things. Yes.
Stable things. Literally no part of me is stable, and it's certainly not my personality.
Okay, part one. This is bodies for sale.
Ooh.
Actually, I've called it the part. It's a part two, but the bodies for sale is just a kind of a catch-all umbrella for both
For
of them.
your
Yeah,
excuse to talk about
but
dead bodies.
this story isn't necessarily bodies for sale. It's just a bodies related story.
I know I was
Okay.
collecting all of my body-related stories.
Yes, exactly. I could bring on a whole load more. It could actually be a thing. It could be a
Definitely got
subset.
problems.
Okay, so it is disturbing, and it's not abstract. It's not a corporate kind of disturbing way. This is a kind of visceral. It's human and deeply personal for a lot of people, because it's about what happens when someone takes advantage of people at the single most vulnerable time of their lives, which is the death of a loved one, death of someone that is close to them. And it has been seen in the news recently. This is basically what happened in Hull with the funeral director, Robert Bush. You remember that, yeah?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So back in 2024, March 24, Homicide Police received a report which was a concern about the care of a deceased person at a funeral directors called Legacy Independent Funeral Directors in Hull. The officers attended, and what they found inside the premises there was something that should really never exist outside a nightmare. Bodies, yeah. Bodies of people who
To be
had...
clear, I'd expect to find that in a funeral home.
Yeah, but not in the way that they were kind of found. But bodies of people who had, according to Robert Bush, the owner, already been cremated. Yeah. 31 people had been told their loved ones had been taken care of, had been cremated, had been laid to rest. In fact, I put that the wrong way around. Had been laid to rest, taken care of, and cremated.
Quite.
Yeah. And the ashes had been returned to the loved ones. Ceremonies had been held. Grief had begun its long process, and loved ones were still there in that building on Hessel Road, uncremated.
There'd be a space issue after a while.
So what?
Space issue. Storage.
Well, yes. Well, I'll be coming to that.
Okay.
So the ashes those families had received and had scattered, perhaps, or kept
lovingly held on the mantelpiece.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, or even buried in a garden, were not the ashes of their loved ones. They were something else entirely. And other families who'd asked for cremations and were still waiting for ashes had simply never been provided at all. So Bush had taken payments for services he never performed.
I honestly don't know which is worse, being given ashes that aren't actually your loved one and you've dealt with those, or never getting and think your ashes are somewhere being held to ransom. Which is worse.
Well, I had a thought about that. I had a discussion about this last week. This has happened with pet cemeteries quite a lot. This is where you get an urn of ashes. Doesn't matter what the pet is. Doesn't matter whose pet it is. You just go away with an urn filled with ashes. But does that make it all right?
To be clear, that's not every pet cemetery.
No, it's not.
Just
No. It was stories of where that had gone wrong in some pet cemeteries. Yeah, which the owners were prosecuted.
I mean, it's not like you can tell from ashes, so it's very hard to go. This doesn't seem like Smokey.
Yeah,
that was a really bad name. I don't know why that name came into my head.
Anyway, it also takes money for funeral plans. So the pre-arranged plans that people take out.
Oh yeah, I know the ones. Yeah.
So the families won't face cost and, the stress of arranging a funeral. Well, they still arrange it, but, that's all taken care of financially. But he kept the money for himself, leaving those people with no arrangements in place, no means to pay for them.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. And I find this part particularly callous. He collected charitable donations from grieving families, made in memories of their deceased, and stolen those too. 12 charities confirmed they'd never...
We just had this chat about how do you look yourself in the reflective surface at night. I don't know how he does that.
That's exactly right. So he took that money, he took the grief money of bereaved people and put it in his pocket. Yeah. But 12 charities confirmed they'd never received a penny, including Macmillan and Salvation Army. Yeah. Yeah. So it does get everyone, I assure you. Those donations aren't about the money, are they? They're about, there's a meaning to them. Yeah. And it could be that a mother or a loved one actually believed in that cause. And
I'm actually so cross I can't talk.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, so you've got a good opportunity here to keep going.
Okay, all right. Good. No interruptions, thanks. The investigation covered dozens of cases. The police described it as extraordinarily complex. Yeah. The Crown Prosecution Service's Deputy Chief Crown Prosecutor, Laura Tams, described it as some of the most serious breaches of trust possible in the funeral industry. Well, I don't think you could get much worse than that, could you? The detective superintendent leading the investigation, Alan Curtis, said that the utter devastation and emotional harm Bush caused to hundreds of victims and families cannot be underestimated. And that word, hundreds, matters. It wasn't a handful of cases. It was systematic, sustained, and deliberate.
He knew what he was doing. This wasn't a bad week.
Yeah. So here's the thing. They've been going for a while. And
how do you know how much this has happened?
Well, exactly. So
was the 31 bodies just a backlog?
Who knows? Yeah. Well, here we go. It was long enough. The period of time was long enough for 67 charges to accumulate. 67 charges, right?
I wouldn't know statistically how many he dealt with in a week, but I imagine that's quite a while.
Okay. So each one of those charges is a body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is a human.
The police found extensive evidence, material from the scene.
Ew.
Yeah, elderly people. Financial records, victim statements, CCTV footage even. The sheer volume of evidence required specialist prosecution team working at pace.
Strong stomachs.
To build a case comprehensive enough to reflect the scale of what happened. And when it was presented to Bush, he entered the guilty pleas. Which means
there wasn't really a lot he could do in that situation.
Well, no. I mean, he was red-handed.
That wasn't me on the camera.
Yeah, which means the families at least were spared a trial. The ordeal of sitting in court and hearing the details of what was done to the young ones played out in front of a jury, would not have been a good ordeal to go through. And you think about the potential for regulation to prevent this kind of thing happening. And it's bad players that typically create regulation.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's always the mistakes that create the regulation. Same with health and safety. Exactly.
An injury. Yeah. And we arrive at the business and systematic dimension of this story, or systemic, I should say, because the answer until recently was remarkably little regulation was in place. The funeral industry in England and Wales has historically been one of the least regulated sectors in the economy. Almost anyone can set up as a funeral director. There's been no mandatory licensing, no compulsory inspection regime, no requirement for formal qualifications.
I feel like if you're going to go into that industry, you maybe I'm wrong. I feel like you have to care about the dead and want to do something respectful.
You're not going to harm anyone, are you, if you drop them?
It's not like a dodgy roofer.
No. The sector's operated largely on trust, on the reasonable assumption that people who choose to work with the dead do so with appropriate reverence and professionalism. Would you not think?
What the hell qualifies as reverence? That was the word.
I didn't say anything about qualification. Just an assumption that people would give respect. Yeah, which is obviously not always the case.
Well, no.
The Robert Bush case is not the first. There have been previous cases of funeral directors retaining bodies, mishandling remains, failing to perform the services paid for. This is bringing ashes together of several bodies and, giving someone an urn with, who knows what in it. Obviously, there are a lot of funeral directors out there that do absolutely what they say. But there's room without regulation. There's room for
Of course, there's always
stuff
room
to
for
happen.
a cowboy.
Yeah. So each time the same regulatory gap is identified, each time there are calls for mandatory licensing. The government has been consulting on introducing a licensing scheme for funeral directors in England and Wales for several years. The process has moved frustratingly slowly.
Also, licensing isn't really the same as strict regulatory frameworks. Mm-hmm. Licensing is just, oh, look, I've got a license to do this.
Yeah, well, it's something though, isn't it?
Well, all right, yeah. I feel like
All right,
go further.
what's the choice? Nothing or something, Danielle? Come on.
All right. I'll be told off on a podcast. Carry on.
Scotland introduced a licensing regime in 2021 following the Morton Hall baby ashes scandal, in which the ashes of babies created at the council crematorium in Edinburgh was secretly disposed of rather than returned to the families.
Oh, don't.
The
Please don't.
parallels are not coincidental. Yeah. Yeah. So any regulatory change is not in time for the families of Robert Bush's victims. The detective superintendent's words in his statement strike me as important here. He said the families have demonstrated extraordinary strength, resilience and courage in circumstances of unimaginable difficulty, which is true, but it shouldn't take extraordinary strength to ensure that a loved one is buried with dignity.
Well, no, you would have thought that was the basic human right.
Absolutely, yeah. That should be something a system guarantees, not something that depends on the personal decency of an individual who turned out to not be
decent at all.
Yeah. Yeah, so with that in mind, what happens to the families, what about closure for them? Because they have gone through that process maybe, and
well, yeah, they'll never have those ashes if they didn't have them to start with.
Yeah, so that's the most painful question. For 31 families whose loved ones were found at the premises are now, there are now proper arrangements have been made for burial and cremation with the support of the authorities. For the families who received the wrong ashes, there is no answer. There is no way to give them back what was taken. The ashes that they have are not their person. The ashes of their person, where they are, what became of them, that question may never be fully answered. It's an open wound that no sentencing, however severe, will fully close. Now, he's going to face court in July.
2026.
Whatever sentence he receives, he'll walk out of prison one day, but the families he violated will basically carry what he did for the rest of their lives. Yeah. And that's a pretty awful story encapsulated. Yeah. I am sorry about that, but it actually does then lead into part 2.
Bodies part 2.
Yeah.
No, but the babies.
I know.
I might need a fortifying shot to keep going.
A fortifying shot. Okay.
Or some Rohypnol or something to put me through it.
So go through that door over there.
Okay.
And I'll see you for part 2. Thanks for supporting us by downloading and listening to this episode.
And a massive thank you also to Donnie, Emily, Nat and Lewis and the BTD Studios for all your expertise in bringing our podcasting dream to reality.
We'd love it if you commented on this episode, as we'd really like to know what you think and what you might like us to cover in future episodes.
And we'll see you on the next one.